Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, each week, each upcoming month, we preview live on radio our premieres of the upcoming TV series that are debuting in Ireland and the UK for the upcoming month. And this week, our special feature turns to ITV, an up-and-coming new series. It's a 4-part series on the one and only Litvinenko. As we know, Litvinenko was a Russian person who obviously conspired against Vladimir Putin in terms of what he spoke out against him and Alexander Litvinenko. And unfortunately for Alexander, he was exposed to a toxic sort of chemical that sort of led to sort of a poisoning of his death. It's a remarkable true life story. It's one of those stories that did happen, sadly and unfortunately, and it's going to be dropping in ITV here in Ireland over a 4-part episode. And I'm delighted to be joined by one of the stars of the series, Radoslaw Kaim, who plays the character Andrei Lugovoy in the sort of 4-part series. And Radoslaw, before we start, I suppose a serious topic, a serious story in time, and obviously, the details of it were sort of grim in terms of nature, but a story that had to be told nonetheless.
Oh, yes. It's, the time we live in, obviously, we are right in the middle of the war. We're all just constantly, every day checking the news and seeing what the Russia is coming up to, anything new coming from this side. So, this story, obviously, is not started, but it's one of those classic Russian, villain, huge, just unbelievable, what happened in London in 2006, I think it was 2006. Yeah.
And I suppose, Radoslaw, in terms of the angle they take on this sort of story, and David Tennant's portrayal of Alexander is absolutely brilliant, but they take the sort of the investigation sort of a route. It's a classic sort of who did it, who not, a tale of discovery. It starts in Scotland Yard and then it goes all the way to basically the Kremlin in terms of it's trying to discover the sort of perpetrators. So we get to see the essence of the story, and Litvinenko sort of suffering right from the sort of start. It's thrown right into us in terms of our TV screens, and then it's almost like a mystery case of trying to unravel the pieces.
Exactly. I mean, it's been going on for years, trying to obviously find out who did it, what exactly happened. Andrei Lugovoy, I play this Russian, obviously, is a person that is still fully, contributing to Russian. I don't know, he's part of the parliament and he's a celebrity in Russia, and and it was a long investigation through Scotland Yard, and then trying to find out what exactly happened in London, what exactly happened that day. It was actually not just one day, because he came back, he did a few flights back and forward between London and Moscow. And that's unbelievable that this guy was flying with polonium on British Airways flight. And, and he was preparing himself to do it and just find the right timing for this thing to happen. And obviously later on, everything's been just covered for, typical what Russia is doing. Obviously turns everything upside down. And, it's not what we did to you, but what you did to us. And it's all about, it's just a whole conspiracy that it's always covered, and it's very hard to find the truth. And Russia will never say, yes, we did it. Putin will never say, yes, I did it.
I suppose, Radoslav, in terms of your own character, normally when you play fictional roles in sort of TV series and movies, a sort of such, you can develop your own sort of twang to the character. You can go off and portray him in sort of different lights and aspects. But especially with a true story, you have to be very sort of sensitive and sort of fact orientated. And obviously, an awful lot goes into the detail and the research. When you're obviously playing this character, Andrei Lugovoy, how much did you sort of take it on yourself to research the whole background, research the whole story, to get yourself maybe immersed, to get a sense that you could portray the character justice and portray the sort of story justice? Because in fairness, fictional stories and fictional characters, for actors, they're almost a sense of joy you can portray them. But a real life sort of story, you want to bring the truth and the honesty and sort of portray that emotion and give the audience almost as real life version to it as much as you can.
In some ways it's easier because you can just Google his name and you have a whole list of YouTube videos and you know exactly the way who he is. You can just find so much information about, he's got a family, he's got children, he is like every man. He's a person that exists. Any of us could be that person, and you can find out so much about this person, the way he talks, the way he's his arrogance, he's sort of it's typical, again, the character that he's so full of himself, and he's obviously supported by the whole Russian propaganda, and and it's just such a great tool for an actor to just really listen, really practice the way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he sort of listens. It's all I think it's easier to have that in a way that you have to sort of come up with your own ideas. It's a food for thought.
I suppose, Alexander, one thing doing my research about this and what struck me was the role, she's still alive obviously, but God bless her soul in terms of what she went through. But Marina Litvinenko, Alexander's wife, gave her blessing for this sort of story and in terms of portrayal. And David actually went to see her in terms of sitting down and trying to find out what type of man Alexander was. So Marina obviously knew very well the sort of story that you were trying to tell, and obviously in terms of her husband and everything that sort of went on as well. So there's almost sense of reward from a cast when you get a seal of approval for obviously one of the main central figures in terms of this awful tragedy.
No, totally. It's we're all trying to get as close as we possibly can to tell the truth. It's being an actor is never about you. It's about delivering the story, just being as accurate as you can to sort of, my challenge was because I'm not Russian, I'm Polish actually, I can speak Russian, but it's, to actually having a coaching and making, sounding native, speaking Russian with a native accent it was a huge challenge for me to be exactly clear that, this is the guy, this is not me. And and just give it to audience and just say, okay, that's what happened.
Okay. And Radoslav, in terms of obviously your role, the Russian role, and David playing Alexander Litvinenko, it was always important that we see the Scottish Yard character stand out and obviously stand out in their own two feet and give that sort of let's say law and order sort of vibe to them in terms of their sort of portrayal in case. And obviously Mark Bonnar plays a central character playing Clive Tinman, and we get to see Brent Hyatt played another, Neil Meskel played Brent Hyatt as well. So those characters, obviously your role is pivotal. Margarita Levita's role, who plays Marina Litvinenko, is pivotal, and David Tennant's role is pivotal. But it's important to see the other aspect of it, and those Scottish Yard officers have to be prominent sort of figures as well to draw in the audience and give that side of the investigation credibility as well. That's obviously another angle, but it's very much an important angle of the storyline as well.
Yeah, so true. So true. It's like the group picture, right? So every brings their own sort of, take on the character. And it's all this, the lead role, the Litvinenko, who obviously dies, but Marina is really the crucial, the wife, that she's still alive. She's still a huge icon for us. Like, obviously, I've heard the story when it happened, and I was myself checking on every now and then what actually is the investigation, what's the status, what's the updates on the investigation, so she's the main, for me, the leading, taking us from that year right up to here now. And she's the proof that she's the sort of legacy that he left, and it's beautiful to honor that, and also for all of us to contribute and just share the story.
And I suppose, Radoslaw, in terms of the filming of the series now, and important that aspect, one thing that struck me, normally with these sorts of TV series, they can be 10-part series and 10 episodes, and obviously open up sort of possibilities or angles, but obviously respectfully a true story, telling the facts of it and telling the credibility. Do you think maybe it would have been insulting that if you drew it out and played it off for 10 episodes and drew out and enlarged events that probably didn't take place, that 4 episodes was about right to tell this story, to tell what happened in terms of this storyline, and give the almost feel and closure that it almost deserves in terms of being respectful as well?
I like that it's short and, just what is necessary. I mean, 10 episodes, obviously, is a telenovela. It's like you can make, from anything you can make it 10 episodes, but to actually just get the essential and get it right, I think I'm sure 4 episodes is just perfect.
And I suppose, Radoslaw, in terms of the filming now, obviously 4 episodes, was it a 2-week shoot? Where did you start to shoot it? Obviously, was it shot mostly in sort of London? And obviously, was it lot studios or certain streets to almost give that sort of Russian environment?
Yes. I'm finding, Russian looking location in London, right? Or in England. How do you do that? I mean, obviously you just try to find the worst creepy building possibly you can in Watford.
And stick a spear in it.
And it's just literally something that you can just, yes, I arrived to remember the first look. I arrived there and like, okay, again, because, I do play all these characters. That's my sort of part of my career, all the villains and all the sort of German, Russian spy, Gestapo. It's always the creepiest possibly. I'm always surprised. How do they find those buildings? Like, where possibly this exists? Yes, in Watford or some sort of direction where no one ever goes there, like, but do people actually do live there? Like, I don't know. It was perfect. It was just inside this location. There's this old factory building where, and it all been turned into this creepy, interrogation room, and what it could possibly, probably, they actually know exactly how the room looked, right? Because they went to Moscow, all the detectives, and so, they know exactly what they're talking about. So they just made it for the TV, for the filming, right?
And I suppose it airs on December the 15th. We've been able to see 1 or 2 sort of trailers there. But what intrigued me, you mentioned about, I don't know if this comes across in the episodes, about the airplane and the flight sort of situation and petroleum and the chemical that you had. And what was this almost like in terms of it? Was it just a little flask that you had beside you that sort of had written on it on the outside that this was a chemical or something? Or how did you sort of portray the element that this man is carrying this sort of neurotoxin that is highly sort of contagious, and a death killer or something?
Yeah, can you imagine? Can you just imagine having something like that can probably kill, half of the city, having in your little thing in your bag on the plane, and like nothing ever, like having a, you know, coffee or I don't know what can, the perfume, and it's just, and then leaving the traces everywhere in London, like, you know, it's just not caring at all, like how stupid you have to be, or how brainwashed you have to be to just sort of ruthlessly, you know, sort of play with it. I mean, not even thinking about your own health or your family health, or, you know, but, you know, we actually never really did the, you know, the poisoning scene itself. It's just sort of the way it's done. It's all the footage around in a hotel, you know, it's not like showing exactly the moment. I mean, maybe it would be interesting to actually see it, because it's a classical, there's such a, you know, history being made, in that little drop in a teacup.
And you mentioned there about playing the Germany characters, the Nazis, the sort of Russian, obviously being Polish, you were coming from that side. Do you almost find those sort of fanatical type characters, the larger than life sort of egotistical, egomaniacs sort of characters, let's say, that they love themselves and nobody else? Do you find those interesting to play? These guys that are so obsessed basically about themselves?
I'm finding it fascinating that people, I mean, it's happening with Trump, it happens in America, it has, like, people just follow the ideology. People follow what they've been, you know, they've been just so believing in the idea of something that they would do anything. They would kill, they would murder, they would rape, just because it feels right. And they believe in it, you know. It fascinates me that how much you have to be disconnected from, like, I don't know, your heart or some sort of general humanity in order just to follow those sort of just kind of, you know, ruthless, orders above you. And you know, being a German Gestapo or an officer, or, you know, killing people in a concentration camp, and, you know, doing it again and again and again each day for a few years. What sort of person you have to be to in order to have that sort of conscious, you know. I mean, obviously, what's the difference between killing, you know, thousands, 100,000 people in a gas chamber and putting a drop into someone's tea? You know, it's kind of the same concept, really. It's what people, how people can be, you know, manipulated, how people can be, you know, through the system, politics mixed with, you know, with some sort of dream or vision. And then the rest doesn't matter. It's just straight to the goal.
Okay. Finally, time has caught up with us there, Radoslaw Kaim. You might enlighten our audience, enlighten all our viewers and listeners, why they should tune in en masse December the 15th, ITV, one of the main sort of channels here in Ireland, to watch Litvinenko, and without giving too much away, what's in store for them?
Yeah, thanks so much. Yes, I'm looking forward to watching it myself.
Radoslaw, in terms of audience, what would they might see in terms of their sort of TV screens watching Litvinenko, the sort of storyline, in terms of what they might see within their TV screens in terms of story? What's in it for them that you advise them that they should watch it?
My God, you know what? It's like, I think it's a must-see series, because obviously you just learn history. You learn you know, it's so relevant to, obviously, time now. Russia is in a war with us, with the rest of the world, and, you know, it's just, you can understand maybe a little bit better the system, the whole show, you know, the whole picture together of this modern world, how we live in. Yeah.
Okay. On that note, Radoslaw Kaim, thanks for joining us this evening to talk about your portrayal of Andrei Lugovoy in the hits TV series Litvinenko, which debuts on our TV screens here in Ireland on December the 15th. Radoslaw, thanks for your time there this evening. Stay safe, take care, God bless, and hopefully speak to you sometime in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem.